Okay, that was a very interesting session just before me by three young neuroscience experts. Guys, come and sit in the front so I can comment on what you said. Um, Moran, I think, mentioned that or I think it was Amol, he mentioned that we now know the neuroscience basis of everything. So I'd like to correct you. We know that neuroscience correlates of everything. We don't know the neuroscience basis of everything, and there's a big difference. So what I'm going to talk to you about in the next 15, 18 minutes is the two most pressing open questions in science today. There are 150 open questions in science, but the first two. The first is, what is the universe made of? Okay. And the reason it's an open question, we don't know the answer, is that 70% of the universe is something called dark energy, which is expanding the distance between galaxies faster than the speed of light, even as we speak right now. Okay, so the cosmic horizon is something 47 billion light years away from us, and it's ripping space apart faster than the speed of light. It's called the cosmological constant. We do not know the nature of this. That's 70% of the universe. 25% of the universe is dark matter. Dark matter is so-called because it's invisible. It's not atomic. Our senses cannot interact with it because our senses only interact with atomic matter and light. And since dark matter is invisible, since it's not atomic and we don't know what it is, it's unknown. That's 95% of the universe. Of the remaining 5%, about 4.999% is interstellar dust that has not yet coalesced into stars, mostly hydrogen and helium, but it's invisible. So the visible universe, with billions and billions on billions, as Carl Sagan would say, of galaxies, and literally now trillions and trillions and trillions of planets. There are 300 million planets in our own galaxy, which are supposed to be like Earth. And every week there's a new one announced. In fact, you can get an app which will beep every time they discover a new planet. All of that is 0.01% of the universe. 0.01% of the universe. And that's what everybody is made up of, the galaxies, the stars, your body, my body, etc., your brain as well. And if we start looking at this visible universe, which is atomic, atoms are made up of subatomic particles, and subatomic particles are not material things, even though we observe them as matter, because they have units of mass and energy. But when they're not interacting with other particles, or when they're not being observed, they become waves. They evolve into waves. And unlike matter, waves have no units of mass and energy. And if you ask scientists today, what is a wave and where is it? They'll say it's a probability wave. And if you ask them where is the probability wave, they'll say it's in Hilbert space. And if you ask them where is Hilbert space, they'll say, oh, this is this multi-dimensional infinite space. But where is it? And they'll say it's mathematical. And then that's where you end up with this story, because where is mathematics if not in your consciousness? Okay, so when we talk about biology, biology is biochemistry, biochemistry is physics, physics is quantum mechanics now, quantum mechanics is mathematics, and mathematics is in consciousness. Whilst science is making huge strides, one of the things we forget is that science itself is an activity in consciousness. Okay, when these kids say we're going to figure out everything, The question is, who is going to figure out? Your neural network or you? Or is there a difference? And I posit to you that your neural networks carry out your commands. They are the correlates, not the basis of consciousness. So, the first question, open question in science, what is the nature of the universe? We don't know. The best thing we can say, nothing. The universe comes spinning out of nothingness, scattering stars like dust. And that has been said since the time of Rumi, that the ground of the universe is a field of infinite possibilities that resides in a domain that is totally invisible and inconceivable. But it gives rise to everything from stars to galaxies to human bodies to brains. And those brains are mathematically fine-tuned to observe the cosmos. So the cosmos that you see right now is a human cosmos. It's constructed and perceived in human consciousness. As we evolve, the cosmos also evolves. So that's the first open question. The second open question is, what's the biological basis of consciousness? So how does our biology produce consciousness? And I should define consciousness right now. Consciousness is what makes experience possible. Okay? Consciousness also has causal functionality. So if I want to lift my arm, I want to walk here, I want to speak to you, it's only possible because I'm a conscious being. As you listen to me right now, you're aware of what I'm saying, you're interpreting what I'm saying, that's because you're a conscious being. And at this moment, there is so much activity going on in your neural networks and in your genes, by the way, because the genes in your brain are responding to what I'm saying right now. In your cortical brain, if this was an emotional conversation, in your limbic brain, it was a threatening conversation in your reptilian brain, and at the same time, your unconscious mind is computing millions of things, actually trillions of things. So how does a human brain or human consciousness think thoughts, play a piano, kill germs, remove toxins, and make a baby all at the same time? And while it's doing that, it's also tracking the movements of stars and planets, because your biological rhythms are the symphony of the whole universe. We dance to a cosmic symphony, even though we can't name the tune. So to say that we'll have an artificial brain, we'll have some simulation of a brain, but your brain is so dynamic, this second, so dynamic, it's not a noun, it's a verb, that to capture that activity in a software program, by the time you capture it, it won't exist anymore. Okay? Artificial systems are based on algorithms, mathematical algorithms, but human beings are not algorithmic. They are predictable. No machine is going to say, I am in love with you. Even if it does, it's not the experience of love. It can be the simulation of love. So here's the second question. How do we experience consciousness? So close your eyes for a second. Think of a beautiful sunset on the ocean. Do you see a picture? Yes? Okay, where is that picture? If I went inside your brain, do you think I'd see a picture of a sunset? There's no picture of a sunset. Okay, now close your eyes and listen to your favorite song. Perhaps for me, John Lennon, or any other song. Do you have an experience? Do you hear something? Where is that sound? If I go in your neural networks, I will not hear sounds, I will not see pictures, I will not experience taste, smell, or anything that we call a mental event. Nor will I find the source of intention, intuition, inspiration, creativity, or choice. Or at least the experience of choice, right? So this is what is called the hard problem. we have no idea how we experience anything. Look at those colors out there. You see all these beautiful colors? What's coming from there to your eyes? Photons. Do those photons have any color? They're massless, okay? They have no dimensionality. Those photons hit your eyes, they go to your brain, where there's electrochemistry. You're not experiencing photons, you're not experiencing electrochemistry, you're experiencing a three-dimensional world in space and time. How do photons become that? That's called the hard problem. So there are two problems in neuroscience. One is called the easy problem, which is what my young scientist friends presented to you. And it has a huge importance, right? Because once we figure out the neural correlates, we will be able to create some of the technologies they promised, and they will get created. But it does not answer the question, what is existence? And what is awareness of existence? Because we know we exist, we know there's a universe that exists, and we also know that we are aware. And if we are not aware of the existence of the universe, then for practical purposes, it might as well not be there. Two questions again. What is the nature of the universe? Nothing. What is awareness? We don't know. Okay? Easy problem, there are no neural correlates which will help us create great technologies. Hard problem doesn't answer the question, who are we? Your body is literally star stuff. It's star dust. The carbon, the hydrogen, the oxygen, the nitrogen in your body and your brain came from the dust of stars. So you could have the atoms in your right hand, the atoms in your nose, the atoms in your foot. They may have come from different stars or even different galactic systems. And yet, there you are. Not only are you there, you are a conscious being. So I think the best definition of who you are is that you are a stardust being that is self-aware. And in that self-awareness, no matter what the enhancement techniques might be, is the key to our evolution. I like to show this just because it shifts me immediately into a qualia mood of connectedness. These are my 3 grandchildren. What is the universe made of? It's not made of anything. It's made of nothing. What is the biological basis of consciousness? There's no biological basis of consciousness. Consciousness conceives, constructs, and governs and becomes our biology. This is the essence of the hard problem. We cannot explain mental or perceptual experience. We cannot explain how atoms and molecules build up to a brain producing consciousness. I was last week, by the way, with Moran's boss, Caltech professor, Christoph Koch, and he trained under him. And Christoph Koch used to very boldly say, many years ago, that consciousness is produced by the brain. Today he calls himself a panpsychist, which means he says that consciousness is everywhere in the universe, and it's an organized property of matter. I, of course, disagree. I think matter is an organized property of consciousness, but even that has come a long way. So this is the hard problem. I suggest to you an approach that comes from many ancient wisdom traditions. The tradition I'm talking about right now is the tradition of Vedanta, which says it's a top-down approach. Consciousness is non-local. It localizes as the brain, the body, and the perceptual experience of the universe. And this top-down approach says that the nothing I spoke about is a field of infinite possibilities that interacts with its own self and creates species-specific modes of experience. So there's no such thing as a fixed universe. If there's an insect that's looking at me with 100 eyes, what would that insect see? You can't even guess. A bat would experience me as the echo of ultrasound. You can't even remotely imagine what that experience is. A chameleon's eyeballs swivel on 2 different axes. Again, you can't even remotely imagine what this room would look like to a chameleon. So what's the real nature of the world? The answer is there's no such thing. What we call the world is a species-specific mode of human experience. And consciousness expresses itself as what are called qualia gestalts. Qualia is a word, like quantum is a word. Qualia means quality of experience. So thoughts, feelings, emotions, desires, memories, imagination, creativity, intention, inspiration, love, compassion, joy, empathy, equanimity. These are qualia qualities that emerge from the field. And I've only mentioned the good ones because there are bad ones too. These express themselves as our energetic body and ultimately as our physical body and ultimately as the experience of the physical world. Now, recently we've completed some studies at the center to see if we can actually create some science out of this. And so we took a group of meditators. These are our collaborators from various universities, and one of them a Nobel laureate. And what we did is we took people through a 5-day experience called the Seduction of Spirit, where we teach them deep meditation. And we then looked at what was happening to their psychology and to what was happening in the heart and the brain. The heart rate variability is probably the best measure of stress, and it responded to meditation within a few seconds in a positive direction. We also looked at cellular aging. Can we reverse one slide, please? We looked at biological aging. Just reverse one slide, go back. Or don't go back, never mind. Okay, so cellular aging, we looked at the brain. We looked, most importantly, at gene expression. And this has never been done, by the way, before. What you're seeing is still unpublished. It's being written up right now because 6 institutions are involved, and we had controlled subjects. It's one of the best highly controlled residential meditation retreat studies ever done. And this is what we found. The meditations included mindfulness, mantra meditation, self-reflection, self-awareness, transcendence, and a few other breathing techniques. As I said, this was an intense study. We studied emotions over a period of 5 days, and you can see that they moved in the direction of positive emotions like more empathy, compassion, joy, equanimity. We also looked at spiritual identity, which moved from local to non-local. But here's the most interesting thing. We studied the enzyme telomerase, which looks at biological aging at a cellular level, and in 4 days, it went up by 40%, which was the first and most remarkable statistic that has ever been documented. 4 days of meditation increasing an enzyme that controls your biological age at the level of the DNA. Telomerase influences the length of telomeres, which are like little buttons at the end of your chromosomes, which control your biological age. So we then took those samples and we sent it to our colleagues at Harvard and Mount Sinai here in New York, and they looked at everything you could possibly imagine. They looked at hundreds of gene expressions and what we call proteomics, proteins, and we saw an increase in the direction of homeostasis, which is self-regulation, and a decrease in the level of inflammation and susceptibility to things like Alzheimer's, heart disease, diabetes, and so on. And these are some of the results in detail. There are more, but genes that regulate heart health moved in a positive direction, were enriched 17-fold. Genes that regulate homeostasis, regulation of biological activity, 17-fold. Absolutely shocking. And as I said, for the first time, what we were able to study was not possible a few years ago because the technologies weren't there to look at the entire genome and the genome expression. So where are we now? We are now looking at a new idea, which is called self-directed biological transformation. How through your own consciousness, you can direct brain activity and gene regulation in the direction of actually influencing the biological markers of aging and the expression of yourself at every level. This particular program, which we are embarking on now, includes meditation, but also detoxing therapies, and also looking at the microbiome, because you have 600 trillion cells in your body. Only 10% are human. The rest of them, so of the 600 trillion cells in your body, only 6 trillion are human. The rest are bacteria. You're a walking bacterial colony with a few human cells hanging on. And so we are looking at the microbiome. The richest source of microbiome is your skin and your GI tract. So with therapies that include detoxification, taking adaptogens, even massage, we can see how we change the microbiome and how that microbiome interacts with our genes. Okay, so that's where we are. What I'd like to propose to you is that there is indeed a solution. Can you go back one slide, please? That there is a solution to the so-called hard problem. And the solution to the hard problem is we are asking the wrong questions. When you ask the wrong questions, then you are not going to be able to solve the problem. But if you change the way we ask the question, is consciousness fundamental in the universe? And many people are saying that. If you watched David Chalmers a few weeks ago at TED conference, he said consciousness is a fundamental property of the universe as much as gravity or space-time or atoms. Don't think of consciousness just being here. Consciousness here is very interesting. It speaks in English with an Indian accent. But that's not what consciousness is. Consciousness is sentience. Sentience means the ability to think and feel, to take in information, to process information, and to come up with a response. And that seems to be everywhere in the universe, from atom to galaxy. There's a universal domain, a collective domain, a personal domain. It projects as our intellect, our ego, as the energy fields of our bodies, and ultimately as our physical body and our physical universe. These are some of the emerging technologies which will be able to quantify the self, but this is the conclusion. We are a field of consciousness, and we are also the knower of the field. We're not separate from the universe. We are an activity of the universe. In fact, there are no well-defined edges to our body. At fundamental levels, we and the universe are the same star stuff. And the same star stuff is indeed consciousness. I am just going to conclude with a few slides to end. No, can you go back 3 slides, please? One more. One more. One more. One more. One more. I guess one more. Here. So this is how we conclude. Consciousness is holistic. It's acausal, which means without cause. It's non-local, outside of space-time. It's in space-time, as our brain, as our body, as our cells, as the atoms that make up our body. But it's everywhere. It's sentient. It knows how to feel, think, take in information, respond to information. It's self-knowing, self-organizing, self-regulating. It's recursive with feedback loops. It's correlative. It computes everything simultaneously, not in a linear fashion, as your body does. Your unconscious mind, in fact, is your non-local mind. Just remember, your non-local mind never sleeps. Your unconscious mind never sleeps. So why do we call it the unconscious? we should be calling it the supra-conscious. Your conscious mind is just a little crest of a wave in this vast ocean of consciousness. And yoga and self-reflection and going within and understanding yourself by asking yourself questions like, who am I? Who's asking the question, who am I? If you go deep, 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 you'll get to this ground zero state, which is the ground zero state of the whole universe. It expresses itself as complementarity, as wave and particle, mind and matter, organism and environment, genes and epigenes, and it's evolutionary, it's creative, and one of its evolutionary impulses is to create technology. So when you create technology, that's a great thing, because technology is an evolutionary impulse of consciousness as well. But don't think the technology will give you a clue about consciousness. It'll give you a clue about the neural correlates of consciousness. But there's much more to that. And this is a very practical understanding. Because if you understand this, that you are a conscious being that can make choices, that you also make unconscious choices, that you can navigate in your unconscious, so-called, and wake up to what is already awake, then it leads to a whole different era where technology can be a divine means to further our evolution. Right now, technology is divine and it's diabolical. With the same technologies, I can take my little cell phone. If I know how to work it, I can interfere with respirators, pacemakers, nuclear plants, and cut off electricity in the city. It's diabolical as well. If our evolution as spiritual beings does not keep pace with our evolution in technology, we risk our extinction. But because we are becoming aware now, this is the moment for freedom and choice. Thank you very much.